be giving a slight edge to the BJP. The Congress managing to hold on to Chhattisgarh. I think 9 out of 10 polls that I've seen say that the Congress will come back in Chhattisgarh. But the big uptick for the Congress happens to be in Telangana, where it is hoping to dislodge the BRS. But mind you, these are just exit polls. These are not the actual results. The actual results will come on Sunday. So what can possibly go wrong between now and Sunday? It's the exit pollsters' worst nightmare, and we'll have 4 of them here in our studios for this special broadcast. And that is what we will be discussing with this expert panel of psephologists and election experts. Because, mind you, predicting election results in India is a mug's game. Not least because of the complexities from state to state, region to region. But most importantly, the conversion of vote share to seat share is a game that is fraught with risk. So, what are the X factors between the exit poll numbers and the actual results? We'll get to that in just a moment. But first, the big picture of what these 5 states mean, setting up the stage from 2023 onwards to 2024.
Welcome to the News 18 mega poll of polls, ladies and gentlemen. It's the semi-final before the finals. The first set of numbers are the Jan Ki Baat numbers that we are putting out here. What are the numbers saying? The numbers are very clearly saying that it's going to be neck and neck with the Congress with its nose just ahead.
2 polls are calling it so close, then you have to give the advantage really to the incumbent.
And in the words of Shivraj Singh Chauhan, what he told us, that मैंने सब कांग्रेस के promises को पंचर कर दिया.
The last few days or weeks of elections are always very critical. They make or break your mind, and that's where the BJP stepped in.
One thing we can fairly say is in Rajasthan, the BJP will come back to power after 5 years. And in Chhattisgarh, at least 2 out of 3 polls seem to be giving the indication that the Congress and Bhupesh Baghel will retain.
Basically, not having a face in Chhattisgarh, there was definitely an anti-incumbency, but it was not a wave of anti-incumbency which could translate into a change of government.
And I think Pradeep may have a point there. You know, people want to see a face. Chehra kaun hai?
ये 22 सीट का मार्जिन क्या है? What is the basis? This is like hedging my bet. चलो यहाँ पे आए तो भी मैं जीत गया, वहाँ भी आए तो मैं जीत गया.
And look at this number. The Congress is very strong in only 5 and it is weak in 53 seats, which is it's never won 53 seats.
So 2-2 out of these 4 key states. Is this possible on result day live?
Hello, Moto.
All right, so who has the edge bases these 2023 exit poll results? Who has the edge for 2024? Let's first talk about the biggest state. The first state that we're going to focus on is Madhya Pradesh. 230 seats, the Hindi heartland. What are the exit pollsters saying? Now, as far as I can see, apart from 2 or 3 pollsters, the top 2 or 3 here, Axis, Matriz and Polstrat, and of course today's Chanakya, all of whom seem to be giving a slight edge. In fact, 3. Axis My India, Matriz and Chanakya. These are the 3 that are giving a slight edge to the BJP. Axis, of course, 140 to 162. Today's Chanakya, 151. But the others, from Polstrat to Jan Ki Baat to all the other pollsters, seemed ETG, CNX, all of them giving the edge to the Congress party. So what does that mean? Now, if you were to aggregate all of it, the poll of polls number is 127, I think, to the BJP and slightly less than 100 for the Congress party. So, if these trends hold, if a good number of polls are giving an edge, not just a slight edge, but a decisive edge to the BJP, then what worked? Because 6 months ago, remember, this may not have been the situation. Number 1, the Ladli Behna Yojana. The Chief Minister himself came out yesterday and said, Ladliyon ne aur behnon ne hame bachaya hai aur hame dobara vote kiye hain. So that is a big factor. We will analyze that, keeping in mind the excess women voter turnout. Number 2, there were 7 MPs, 3 ministers in the central government who were parachuted to fight. We will see how they have fared. That is the second big factor. The third factor, of course, Prime Minister Modi He held close to 40 rallies, I believe, in Madhya Pradesh. It was a whirlwind campaign, particularly in the last phase in Madhya Pradesh, that could have worked in favor of the BJP. The other critical factor, and this is what did not go for the BJP in the last time around, Gwalior Chambal, where the Congress swept 26 out of 31, and the Malwa, the Neemaj, Ratlam, Jhabua, that belt, which was the agrarian belt, the tribal belt, where the Congress swept last time. Those two regions, if they swing towards the BJP, then the BJP might have a slight edge. The most important factor, if as some of these polls suggest, the BJP comes back in the kind of numbers it is suggesting, 140 plus, then there is no way an incumbent chief minister can be removed, no matter how fatigued the people may be of him or how much anti-incumbency may be there against him. He is a sitting chief minister. If a sitting chief minister comes back with the kind of majority that some of these polls are suggesting, there is no way you can change a sitting chief minister. So what are the X factors in Madhya Pradesh? Remember, it's a big state, it's a close fight. Even in the last election, I still remember we were all here in the CNN News 18 studios. It went on till 11:30 p.m. Can you imagine a big state, just two players, bipolar contest going till 11:30 p.m. just to decide who is going to rule Madhya Pradesh. So I have three X factors which I think are going to be critical, and the pollsters will explain in just a moment when we go to them how they're reading these three X factors. The first X factor is the big M, the Mahila factor, and we've mentioned this yesterday as well in our broadcast. There were 18.3 lakh extra women voters this time around, 2.72 as opposed to 2.41. That's almost 2% of the entire electorate. Now, the question is, have they gone for Ladli Behna or have they gone for the Congress guarantees? Now, how are the pollsters factoring in the women vote? A lot will depend on that. That is X factor number one. X factor number two, because I mentioned earlier on that last time when Madhya Pradesh polled, we were here till 11:30. One of the reasons why we were here till 11:30 p.m. was because of the tight fights. If you look at 2018 and look at the tight fights, there were 30 seats. That is more than 10% of the total number of seats in the state. 30 seats where the winning margin was less than 3,000 votes. It was less than 1.5 to 2% of the votes. 15 of those 30 seats went to the Congress, the BJP had 14 and the others had 1. Interestingly, the BJP had a bigger vote share despite getting lesser number of seats in those tight fights than the Congress, and yet the Congress had just one nose ahead, 15 to 14. So those tight fights are going to be critical, and mind you, these tight fights are spread across various regions of Madhya Pradesh. Some of them are there in Gwalior Chambal, some of them in the Malwa belt, some of them in the central part of the state, some of them in Vindhyachal. So it's not like, those tight fights are concentrated in just one region. So those tight fights, how are they going? That's the second X factor. And the third X factor, and this is again going to be critical for the Congress party, the BJP bastions. Now these are seats that the BJP has never lost since 2003. Since they have been winning elections in the state of Madhya Pradesh for the last 20 years, the BJP has not lost these 58 seats. 48% vote share, almost 50%, which means 1 out of 2 votes is going to the BJP. The Congress's vote share in these 58 seats is 11% lower than the BJP. And again, it is not like these seats are concentrated in one region. It's there in Chambal, it's there in the central part of the state, it's there in Vindhyachal, a couple of seats in Mahakashal, but really it's spread right, some in Malwa as well. So it's really spread all across these states. Now the reason why these 58 seats are important is because if this trend continues, and remember these are seats that the BJP has not lost in the last 20 years, if this trend continues, then the starting point of the race for 230 for the Congress is 230 minus 58, let's say 60. So it's actually 170 seats. So Congress needs to win 116, which is the majority out of 170. That is an incredible strike rate. You have to get a strike rate of 66%. You have to win 2 out of every 3 seats you're contesting, unless, of course, it is such a big wave, it is such an undercurrent that in those 58, 60 seats that the BJP has not lost in the last 20 years, the Congress is able to topple them in those 58 to 60 seats. So these are the three X factors. Let me go across to our psephologists who are joining us, and we have a full panel of psephologists. No politicians today. We don't want any of the political talking points. This is going to be clearly, I wouldn't want to call it an academic exercise, but clearly for people who are interested in exit polls, people who are interested in the science of how people predict elections, this is the show for you to watch. So, Professor Sanjay Kumar is joining us. He's from CSDS. He's a familiar face here on CNN News 18 here in our studios. Pradeep Bhandari is the founder of Jan Ki Baat. Manoj Kumar Singh is the founder of Matriz. He's the CEO of Matriz. Dr. Sandeep Shastri, psephologist, also joining us. Pradeep, I'll start with you first. Your numbers give the Congress a slight edge. It's slightly different from some of the other polls that I outlined, and some of them are giving a decisive edge to the BJP. What in your mind explains the difference? Because clearly, I can understand that pollsters get the margin, here or there, upar niche 10-15, wo to theek hai. But the direction, some polls getting the direction this way, some polls getting the direction that way. How does one explain that?
See, I am a bit conservative on this, but let me tell you that there are 40 seats in Madhya Pradesh where the margin is very, very low. Now, in these 40 seats, if the Bharatiya Janata Party ends up winning 55% of them, then it will cross 115. If it ends up winning 65% of them, it will cross 120. And if it ends up winning 80% of them, it will even cross 125 and cross 130. Now, on the women vote factor, Zaka, last time 50%, more than 50 seats were there where the women vote was more than the men vote. Those seats have now reduced to 34. Overall, the women voting percentage is not higher than the men voting percentage. It is 2% less than the men voting percentage. So if you look at it in totality, it is not like Bihar where the women disproportionately polled more than the men. Here the quantity of men vote is still higher than the women vote. If the women vote has increased by a certain amount, it's the men vote also which has also increased. So it's not that only one vote is increasing. But overall, I do feel that the Bharatiya Janata Party, if it is able to win these close margin seats because of the women vote, it can definitely cross the majority mark, and if it wins it one way, it can even cross 130. But I do not see a 150 scenario on the ground for sure. And just one small point, in the 58 seats that you mentioned, this time the BJP is not winning all of the seats because at some places there are issues with respect to the candidate. So if more women are voting for the BJP, less number of youth are voting for the BJP in Madhya Pradesh than what it had in 2018. And also note, in 2018, it was not the Congress which had polled more women vote. It was still the BJP which was polling more women vote than the Congress. It is now that the BJP has a disproportionate higher women vote. This is where it can definitely have an edge and also touch 130.
तो मनोज जी, मैं फिर वही एक पॉइंट पे आ रहा हूँ, क्योंकि देखिए एग्जिट पोलस्टर्स थोड़ा बहुत ऊपर नीचे यहाँ वहाँ हो सकता है, उसमें कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है, लेकिन 3 पोल इस तरफ और 3 पोल उस तरफ, तो उसमें तो कुछ गड़बड़ है ना।
आप इसको गड़बड़ भी मान सकते हैं। देखिए, जब भी हम लोग जाते हैं फील्ड में तो एक चीज़ देखते हैं कि पब्लिक किस चीज़ को पकड़ता है और पोल का नेचर क्या है। यदि आप मध्य प्रदेश में देखेंगे तो बीजेपी के लोगों को जितना विश्वास था कि बीजेपी हारेगी, उतना शायद कांग्रेस वाले को भी विश्वास नहीं था कि बीजेपी हारेगी। ये फैक्ट है कि पार्टी के अंदर जितना एंटी इनकम्बेंसी शिवराज सिंह चौहान के भीतर दिख रही थी, शायद पब्लिक के बीच में वो कम थी। दूसरी बात है कि ये पहली बार भारत के उन चीज़ों को देखिए कि जो लाडली बहना इन्होंने लेकर आया और उसके 4 महीने के अंदर 4 किस्तों को दिया और उसको इम्प्लीमेंट किया। उस योजना को लाकर एक तरह से देखा जाए तो भारतीय वोटर को पैसा दिया गया, व्हाइट के रूप में दिया गया, अकाउंट में दिया गया कि तुम मुझे वोट दो।
लेकिन ये बताइए, अगर ये चुनाव 6 महीने पहले होता तो फिर अलग स्थिति बन जाती?
पूरी तरह से अलग स्थिति। ये पिछले 1 महीने के अंदर जिस तरीके से चुनाव के समीकरण बदले हैं, मध्य प्रदेश के चुनाव पिछली बार 3 लोगों ने लड़ा था, शिवराज सिंह, कमलनाथ जी, दिग्विजय सिंह और ज्योतिराज सिंधिया। 3 लोगों ने मिलकर कांग्रेस को वहां लेकर आए थे। कमलनाथ जी मैनेजमेंट को संभाला था, दिग्विजय सिंह पार्टी को संभाला था और ज्योतिराज सिंधिया जी ने सारे पब्लिक जो उनके वोटर और ये थे उनको यूथ को इकट्ठा किया था। लेकिन इस बार सिर्फ कमलनाथ अकेले थे और पूरे चुनाव लड़ रहे थे और दिग्विजय सिंह सिर्फ अपने सीटों पे, जिन सीटों पे अपने लोगों को उतारे थे वहां तक उन्होंने केंद्रित कर दिया था। लेकिन 1 महीने की पहले की स्थिति देखेंगे तो कांग्रेस में वैसी नहीं थी, दोनों बहुत काफी तालमेल बना के चल रहे थे। एक सिचुएशन जो कहा जाता है पार्टी के कांग्रेस के अंदर ये फैला कि दिग्विजय सिंह इसलिए नहीं इंटरेस्ट ले रहे हैं क्योंकि कमलनाथ जी यदि मुख्यमंत्री बनेंगे तो अपने बेटे को सेट कर सकते हैं। तो ये एक बड़ा नुकसान हो जाएगा, और अभी कमलनाथ जी हार जाते हैं तो क्या होगा कि नेक्स्ट उनके लिए सीएम का कोई पद नहीं है। तो एक यहां पे वो दिखा, बीजेपी में जो 6 महीने पहले जो विरोध दिख रहा था पार्टी के अंदर पे, 7 यहां से बड़े लीडरों को ले जाकर ये पूरी तरह से उनके सीएम के अगेंस्ट में जो ये था रोका गया था। एक बात ये भी आती है कि भाई क्या कारण हो गया बीजेपी के अंदर कि शिवराज सिंह चौहान ये बोल रहे हैं कि बहना मैं चुनाव लड़ूं या ना लड़ूं। एक एंटी इनकम्बेंसी को पहचानने का एक तरीका भी होता है लीडर को कि हमारे विरुद्ध कौन से वोटर हैं जो अगेंस्ट करते हैं। मैं तो समझता हूं कि शायद ये शिवराज सिंह चौहान अपने वोटर जिनके लिए उन्होंने पॉलिसी लेकर आया उनको पकड़ना चाहते थे, उनको कैच करना चाहते थे, इमोशनल, और उसमें वो सफल हुए।
तो ये दो चीजें हैं, and I want to ask Sanjay Kumar this. You know, one thing is, like I said, 6 months ago, had this election happened in Madhya Pradesh, maybe the result would have been different, because everyone you spoke to said, you know, 18 saal ho gaye hain, there is a fatigue factor, naya chehra chahiye, and so on and so forth. So, you know, there was a fatigue factor with Shivraj Singh Chauhan. Two things changed in the last 6 months, and I'm curious to know from you whether voters decide on record in the last 6 months or whether they decide on the record of the last 5 years, because clearly the BJP made a lot of amends in the last 6 months. Shivraj himself, you know, really got a real wind in his sails with this whole Ladli Behna business and the LPG cylinder prices being reduced after the Karnataka elections, all of that. And then the central leadership, as Manoj ji said, flying in 7 MPs and 3 union ministers to, you know, contest the elections. Will that make a difference, the last 6 months and the catching up that the BJP did? Or do voters, you know, look at the last 5 years of a government and decide whether to vote it back or vote it out?
Zaka, I think there is a unanimity among a lot of pollster analysts that if elections were held, say, 6 months or a year ago, BJP would not have performed as good as they are likely to perform in the elections which has, you know, happened just now. And the reason is that for the last 6-8 months, BJP, especially Shivraj Singh Chauhan, has, you know, doled out various schemes, and Ladli Behna scheme is the scheme which is much talked about. So the big point, I don't think that BJP, the voters make a very carefully crafted decision about which party to vote for, looking at what party or what government has been able to do during the last 5 years. But whatever government has been able to do during last 6-8 months, even sometimes within the last couple of months, that creates a perception in the mind of the voter which becomes more stable and more durable compared to whatever party has been able to do or the government has been able to do during last 5 years. I think that has brought BJP back into a contest, serious contest, as some of the polls are also indicating that BJP may be winning assembly election in Madhya Pradesh.
Yeah.
If you look at, if I go by the data, we have figured out that, you know, roughly 13 between 12 to 14% voters make up their mind on the last day, very last day of voting, and similar number of the voters make up their mind couple of days before voting. Who are these voters? These are not the voters who are looking at, you know, 5 years of the government by any political party. They are making up their mind going by the perception, and the last 6 months, or I would say last 2 months, created a perception that BJP is in a serious contest. Shivraj Singh Chauhan is doing a good work with regard to various schemes. So this perception may have helped BJP in garnering more votes than they would have expected to get.
Okay. So let me go to the second big state, the heartland state, which is Rajasthan, right? Let's see what are the factors there. There, I think it's a little more clear, because remember in Madhya Pradesh, I said 3 polls are suggesting BJP will win, 3 polls are suggesting that Congress has the edge. But in Rajasthan, I think it's a little more clearer, because a good number of the polls, look at that, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 polls. I think 5 of those polls, other than the one at the top, and from what I understand, the one here. So 5 out of the 7 are giving an edge to the BJP. 2 are giving an edge to the Congress party. So it's a little more clearer as compared to, let's say, Madhya Pradesh, where it was almost 3:3. So today's Chanakya is giving Congress 101. Axis is giving Congress the range of 86 to 106. Those are the only two polls who are giving the Congress the edge. PMark is saying 105 to 125 to BJP. ETG is giving 108 to 128. Matriz is giving 115 to 130. C Voter is giving again 94 to 114. So broadly, it seems like most of the pollsters are saying that yes, the BJP has the edge, and this is in keeping with a pattern that we've seen in Rajasthan for the last 30 years, where it's alternating every 5 years between BJP and Congress. Now, what are the factors at play if these exit poll results hold? Takeaway number one, the revolving door pattern that we have seen in the state of Rajasthan for the last 30 years will continue. We've seen this in other states as well. In some of those states it's broken. In Kerala, for example, in Tamil Nadu, it's broken over the last few years. But in Rajasthan, that trend will continue. Takeaway number two, the BJP's campaign, whether it was corruption, safety of women, paper leak, crimes, the Udaipur issue resonated in the last few months. So all of that seems to have found resonance amongst the people. Takeaway number three, and this goes without saying, this whole rift between Gehlot and Pilot, which was in the headlines for the better part of the last 4.5 years, that has really impacted the Congress's chances, particularly in eastern Rajasthan, in the Mewat region, the Gujar-dominated region. Takeaway number four, the gains that the BJP may have in the Mewar region, that is giving the BJP hope for a comfortable margin, because remember, the Rajputs, the upper castes are a very big factor in Rajasthan. They always have been, and particularly so when the BJP wins, they tend to vote quite substantially for the BJP. And takeaway number five, the guarantees that the Congress party announced may be resonating with voters in other states. It may not necessarily be resonating in the state of Rajasthan. So, having said that, what are the X factors? Just like Madhya Pradesh, remember Rajasthan too has seen its fair share of tight fights. It has also seen its share of personality clashes between Gehlot and Pilot, of course. So let's go look at the Pilot factor, because I think there is a caste factor intertwined here as well. There's also a regional factor intertwined here. So Pilot factor, it's about 40 odd seats, largely in the eastern part of the state. This is the Mewat region, so you have Jaipur, you have Ajmer, Tonk, Dausa, that entire Bharatpur, that entire belt. And if you look at 2018, out of those 42 seats, the Congress won 27. The others actually were the number two, not the BJP. The others were number two, 11 others, independents and other smaller parties won. The BJP only had 4 seats in eastern Rajasthan at a vote share of 34%. The Congress had 27 at a vote share of almost 40.5%. So the Congress, in terms of seat share, won almost 7 times the number of seats of the BJP. This critical part of eastern Rajasthan, I think, is one X factor. Whether those Gujars and the dominant castes in the eastern part of Rajasthan shift back to the BJP, that is one critical X factor to watch out for. The other X factor, just like we mentioned, tight fights in Madhya Pradesh, in Rajasthan too. Remember, the Congress just reached 100 in 2018. They needed 6 BSP MLAs to then switch to the Congress for them to go past the halfway mark. The tight fights, 23 out of 200 last time around. That's again more than 10% of the seats. The BJP had the edge in those tight fights. The BJP had 42.8% of the vote share. The Congress had 41. Congress won only 9. The BJP won 13 out of these 23 tight fight seats. And finally, this is again, I think, going to be a critical factor. But ultimately, if the BJP wins, the central high command will decide who's going to be the chief minister. But let's not forget the Raje factor. She has been a multi-term chief minister of the BJP, the biggest face of the BJP in the state of Rajasthan. Again, 42 seats. And in an election where the BJP got wiped out last time around, almost 20 of those seats out of the 60 that the BJP won, 1/3 of those seats were in what is called the Rajput-dominated seats. The southern part of Rajasthan, this is south of Udaipur, and then of course there is a lot of these seats in what's called the Marwar region. So clearly, Vasundhara Raje is a factor. The Rajput vote is a factor. Whether or not, and the difference between Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, let's say the BJP wins Madhya Pradesh and the BJP wins Rajasthan, the ease for the High Command in Rajasthan will be the fact that Vasundhara is not a sitting Chief Minister. Shivraj Singh Chauhan is a sitting Chief Minister. It's much harder to dislodge or remove a sitting Chief Minister no matter how powerful the High Command may be, Vasundhara is not a sitting Chief Minister, so the things might be a little different there. So let me bring in our guest, Professor Sandeep Shastri, who's also been waiting very patiently. So let me come to you, Professor Shastri, with the Rajasthan question. Like I said, 7 polls, 5 of them giving the edge to the BJP, 2 to the Congress, and even in the 2 that are giving the edge to the Congress, it's just a slight edge. Neither of them is saying that they will go comfortably past the halfway mark. So again, I'm going by the directional trend, not so much the degree or the magnitude. The directional trend seems to be the Rajasthan's revolving door politics over the last 30 years will continue in the 2023 election as well. Do you think that that will be the case, or will there be, is there anything that you have seen or heard on the ground to buck that trend?
Zaka, if you look at Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, I think both these states are seeing a very close contest, especially if you look at the likely vote share of the main contestants. And that's why the various exit polls seem to be taking different positions, because as they translate the vote share into seats, you have these differences emerging. So I think Rajasthan is going to have a very, very close race. And I would quickly highlight from what you have said, the 5 R's, as you put it. You see, I think revolving door policy bites your defeat. It is one factor that comes in. But besides the first R of the revolving door policy, I think what is equally important is the rift within both the Congress and the BJP. And I think the party which managed the rift more effectively is the one which would have the upper hand. And it seems to be the BJP which has been able to do this. The third R which you talked about is the range of schemes that the government came up with and which it sought support from the voters on. Now, my take would be a little different from what you said. I think if anything worked for the Congress, it was this factor, the range of schemes that it had, its chief minister face, and this factor worked, I think, in their favor. The fourth R you talked about, the regions. Yes, there are, the fight is always in the regions, and the BJP appears to have done well in a particular region, which could put them at an advantage. And of course, as you finally said, the Rajay factor now within the BJP. So for me, these 5 R's taken together is the basket of factors which will define and decide the result. If you had cut me in on Madhya Pradesh, I would have said similarly there were 4 M's. The Mahila, the Mamaji, the Mantri and the Modi factor. By Mantri, I mean bringing in central ministers and therefore helping develop a social coalition, because these ministers represented different social groups. So here it is 4 factors which have brought the party a little ahead of the Congress.
So Pradeep, what are you, I mean, you've given a very decisive mandate to the BJP in Rajasthan. What are you seeing working for the BJP in Rajasthan which you haven't seen in Madhya Pradesh?
See, again, Zaka, I'll say that Madhya Pradesh also, if BJP polls the maximum close margin seats, it can definitely cross and reach till 130, 135. I'm being a bit conservative on Madhya Pradesh. On Rajasthan, Zaka, it's very, very simple. Last time the Congress party had literally swept Eastern Rajasthan. If everything else, like we've done a seat-wise analysis, so even a seat-wise total does not get the BJP to less than 100. But even if I translate the vote share into seat share, taking the caste representation in mind, the Eastern Rajasthan belt, this time the Congress party is not sweeping. So that is where the Bharatiya Janata Party makes a significant dent, and the Kota region, the Sambhag where you're talking about the Vasundhara Raje factor, that is where the BJP is sweeping. So if I look at the other caste, it's the Gujjar vote which had went 90% with the Congress party last time, thinking that a Gujjar would be made the chief minister, and this time it's more an anti-Congress vote by that community. The SC, ST Muslim last time also had voted the Congress decisively in an anti-BJP mandate. That remains constant right now. All the other castes, whether it is the Meenas and others, are polling the BJP more. So even in the worst case scenario, if I take the 27 close margin seats, the BJP does not fall less than 100 and it can go at least till 120, 122. So I do not look a very close contest in terms of Congress getting more seats than the BJP, and the rebel factor is there on both the sides. So say there are many BJP rebels which are fighting as independents. Similar is the scenario with the Congress party, but it's the swing vote of the Gujars, according to me, and as per the ground analysis which our 100 researchers have done, which is making a decisive difference in Rajasthan, making BJP ahead of the majority mark.
Also, if you've seen over the last 20 years plus, since 1998, when Gehlot became Chief Minister first, every time the BJP wins, the margin is much bigger, both seat share and vote share. And every time the Congress wins, the margin, they win, but the margin is not that comfortable. But let me ask Manoj ji also. Manoj ji, क्या आपका भी जो findings है एग्जिट पोल का यही है कि मतलब जो पैटर्न जो चल रहा है राजस्थान में पिछले 30 साल से वही कंटिन्यू होगा या उससे कोई अलग?
नहीं, कोई अलग नहीं होगा और वही होगा। और जितने भी अभी देख रहे हैं कुछ और एजेंसियां हैं जिनके ऊपर है कि नहीं वहाँ कांग्रेस दोबारा आ जाएगी, मैं एकदम साफ तौर से मानता हूँ कि जिसकी भी सरकार बनेगी फुल मेजोरिटी के साथ बनेगी और अच्छे मेजोरिटी के साथ बनेगी। ऐसा नहीं होने जा रहा है कि आप 103 और 104, 105 सीटें लाकर सरकार बनाने जा रहे हैं। सरकार जो भी बनाएंगी वो 110, 115 के ऊपर ही बनाएंगी, चाहे बीजेपी हो चाहे हो। दूसरी बात, अभी प्रदीप ने उसको सारा चीज़ को बताया कि गुर्जर किस तरीके से पूरे।
लेकिन ये कहा जाता है कि राजस्थान में जो गुर्जर है बहुत मतलब छोटे संख्या में होते हैं, मतलब आई थिंक 4-5-6% से ज्यादा नहीं होंगे, लेकिन गुजर आप कह रहे हैं कि डिसाइसिव वोट बैंक है।
वही मैं बता रहा हूं कि बिहार में और झारखंड में 3 पॉइंट ही करीब राजपूत कम्युनिटी के हैं और सबसे ज्यादा विधायक जीत कर वो आते हैं। ये कास्ट ऐसा होता है कि जो आपको जीता कर लाता है, वो फैक्टर नहीं रहता है कि आप कितने % वहां पे हैं, आप कितने वोकल हैं, आपको पॉलिटिकल नॉलेज कितना है, आप किस तरह से एग्रेसिव होकर चुनाव लड़ते हैं, ये मायने रखता है। राजस्थान और मध्य प्रदेश में दो चीजें बहुत जो मुझे सबसे ज्यादा डिप्रेस देखी कि जैसे राजस्थान के मुख्यमंत्री ने क्या किया कि एक साथ 25 घोषणाएं कर दी योजनाओं का, इंप्लीमेंट होगा कि नहीं होगा, और पब्लिक में वहीं पे आकर कंफ्यूजन पैदा हो गया। शिवराज सिंह चौहान ने एक योजनाएं को पकड़ा, उसको इंप्लीमेंट कर दिया और उसको 4 किस्त भी दे दिया। तो पब्लिक ये डिसाइड कर ली राजस्थान में कि ये जितने योजनाएं को घोषणा की जा रही है ये सिर्फ चुनावी वादे हैं और इससे हमें लाभ नहीं पहुंचने जा रहा है। आप क्या सिलेंडर कम कर दिए, आप महिलाओं के, हाँ वहां पे आयुष्मान स्वास्थ्य योजना थी जिसको 25 लाख 10 लाख से इन्होंने बढ़ाकर 25 लाख किया, उसका क्रेज था उसमें, लेकिन ये बीजेपी के उस चीजों को धाराशाही नहीं कर पाई जिस तरीके से उन्होंने जातीय समीकरण और चीजों को लेकर आए। और पब्लिक के बीच में कहीं न कहीं सचिन पायलट और गहलोत मुख्यमंत्री के वो चीजें दिख रही थी, दोनों शेयर नहीं कर रहे थे। तो मैं कहूंगा कि राजपूत वोटर इस बार एग्रेसिव होकर वोट किए हैं, गुर्जर वोटरों में उत्साह नहीं था और यहां पे जाकर बीजेपी गेन कर रही है।
बिल्कुल, आई थिंक 1 या 2 ही ऐसे पब्लिक रैली थे जहां मतलब एक ही मंच पे दोनों दिखे, गहलोत or pilot. But let's shift focus to the other state, and frankly I think this could be the most interesting state as far as this round of elections is concerned, and that is the state of Telangana. Now we have all the exit pollsters with their numbers for Telangana. So let's bring out the poll of polls, and okay, here we go. So Jan Ki Baat is giving a slight edge to the Congress, 48 to 64. The PSG survey is giving a slight edge to the BRS, 48 to 64. CNX edge to Congress, Chanakya edge to Congress, Axis My India also edge to Congress, and a pretty decent edge at least in 4 out of these 5 polls. Only 1 seems to be giving an edge to the BRS. Now here it's interesting because it's not a 2-horse race. You have the BRS and the Congress, they are the principal polls, no doubt about it. The BJP is also an X factor. If the BJP polls between 7 to 10 or 12 seats, that means whose seats is the BJP taking away from? Is it taking away from potential Congress seats or is it taking away from potential BRS seats? Will the house be hung? Well, it's always a possibility in a multi-polar contest. There's also the MIM, which steadily has always had 6 or 7 seats, particularly in Hyderabad city. So, what are the takeaways if these exit polls hold? Because 4 out of 5, like I said, seems to be giving a slight edge to the Congress party. Number 1, the Congress localized this election, made it a regional election, did not talk about the national issues. The regional campaign, the regional issues had greater resonance. After Karnataka, they managed to make another state a very regional-centric campaign, and they perhaps are reaping the rewards of it. Anti-incumbency of 10 years, yes, KCR has been in power since the state came into formation. And the statehood sentiment, which is what KCR is known for, that has probably waned over the last 10 years. Now there are other more livelihood issues which have taken precedence. Takeaway number 3, there's an effective usage of the Karnataka model of the Congress party, the guarantees, the same guarantees which the Congress announced in Madhya Pradesh, in Rajasthan, which may or may not have worked, certainly seem to have had a resonance in Telangana, not least because in Karnataka they promised it, they won a big mandate, and people of Telangana are seeing what's happening in the neighboring state. And takeaway number 4, the Congress's guarantees, particularly women and farmers, that could potentially counter the BRS. And takeaway number 5, the BRS is still very much in the game. The Raitu Bandhu, the health scheme that they've launched, the irrigation scheme, all of these are very, very popular. And of course, development of Hyderabad as a principal urban center in all of South India, that is also a big selling point for the BRS. So what then could be? All right, we've got a KTR tweet. He's the son, of course, of KCR. And in fact, this is part of our Motorola India's best 5G brands tweet of the day.
Hello, Moto.
All right, this is KTR's tweet. After a very long time, had a very peaceful sleep. Exit polls can take a hike. Exact polls will give us good news. Now, KCR and his family have been a little upset with the exit pollsters, not many of them giving the TRS the edge. I'll just quickly take you through the magic wall and what could be the X factors as far as Telangana is concerned. Let's look at the state. Now, one big mountain, I would say, that the Congress has to climb is the Hyderabad region. Hyderabad has 19 seats. Let's look at the Hyderabad region and why the Congress is starting off with a slight disadvantage in these 19-20 seats. Out of these 19, the BRS has won 10 last time around and the MIM 7. So 17 out of 19 already is on the other side. The Congress won just 1 and the BJP just won 1. So which means out of an assembly of 119 seats, the Congress is fighting effectively only in 100 seats. So if it needs to come to majority and 60 is the halfway mark, they need to win 60 out of 100 seats, assuming that they are not able to wrest back any of these seats in Hyderabad city, in the outskirts of Hyderabad, seats which they've never won since the existence of the state of Telangana from 10 years ago. The other critical factor, of course, could be the rural factor. Remember, Telangana, Hyderabad, Greater Hyderabad, those 20 seats, highly urbanized, but the rest of the state is very, very rural, very, very agrarian. Is there a rural distress, an undercurrent, which could cost the BRS? Remember, the BRS won a large number of seats here in northern Telangana, just north of Hyderabad, Nizamabad, Asifabad, Adilabad. There is one polarization factor, but these are all very largely agrarian constituencies. And if there is an agrarian distress, then yes, the BRS will hurt in northern Telangana. Also in southern Telangana, Kamareddy, Rangareddy districts, even in Warangal, Nalgonda, these districts in the southern part, which are again deeply agrarian, the BRS has won big seats last time around as well as in 2014. If there is an agrarian distress, then the BRS could be in trouble. So these are the two X factors as far as Telangana is concerned. So let me quickly, again, we'll start with our OB guests, Professor Sandeep Shastri, Karnataka and now Telangana. If the Congress manages to pull off Telangana, as most exit polls are suggesting, what may that mean?
If the exit polls are proved to be correct, I think the youngest state of the country will be the headlines on Sunday and will be the game changer of this election. I think if the Telangana result goes the Congress way, it is a clear reflection of the distinct differences between the politics north of the Vindhyas and south of the Vindhyas. I think, as you said, the Karnataka victory of the Congress, now followed by, if the exit polls are to be correct, a result favoring the Congress in Telangana, would indicate that in the southern part of India, the Congress still has a strong presence, though it may be much weaker in the north and in the west, and it may have important implications for next year's Lok Sabha elections. The third point, I think, which you have stressed upon as part of the X factors is the type of alliance politics that was seen in Telangana, the Congress, the BRS with the with the party or AIMM, and then the BJP going alone. Of course, some believing that the BJP, by changing its leadership, was actually helping the BRS. But whatever be the factors, I think one thing is clear in Telangana. While it may appear to be a multi-cornered contest, if you go constituency-wise, it was a bipolar fight involving two of these four players.
Yeah.
So for the vote, there was no confusion. There was perfect clarity because the choices were between two of the parties and candidates. Last point, Zaka, about what you said. Yes, after 9 years of the formation of the state, the emotional sentiment associated with that and the benefit of which KCR got may be dwindling. Also, KCR came up with a lot of welfare schemes, the Raita Bandhu scheme and other schemes, which seem to have worked well. So if the BRS still, though it may lose as per the exit polls, but it is not going to be a very humiliating defeat.
Sure.
It would be these two factors. And finally, I think the perception of corruption in the state and the fact the leadership was a little distanced from the people, the MLAs not having a great record, and the BRS not changing many of its MLAs may have actually worked against the party.
Okay, so Sanjay Kumar, you know what Professor Shastri said, and I think it's a valid point. This whole north-south divide, Congress has just won Karnataka, could possibly win Telangana. They have a very strong ally in the DMK in Tamil Nadu. In Kerala, again, Rahul Gandhi is an MP from Kerala. I think they won last time 15 out of 20 in that state. So Congress is emerging as a pretty formidable force in southern India. But on the contrary, in northern India, in states in the heartland, states like Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, where they're in a direct fight against the BJP and where they need to start raking up some wins, we are not seeing any green shoots for the Congress party. So how would you read, if Congress manages to wrest Telangana out of the grasp of the BRS, how would you read that verdict from a national context?
From the national context point of view, look, what would be the importance of Congress victory in Telangana? See, Congress, whenever Congress has been in fight with the regional party, if you look at the last 20, 25 or 30 years of electoral history, Congress has not been able to defeat a regional force for the last 20, 25 years. This would be one of the few occasions when Congress would be able to wrest power from a regional force. So that's going to be very, very important. But my observation is a little slightly different from what we are discussing at the moment. It's not that if we can look at the north-south divide with regard to Congress support base, because even if you look at the neighboring state, Andhra, where is the Congress in Andhra?
Correct.
2%, 3%, 4%, not more than 5%. If you travel down to Tamil Nadu, where is Congress in Tamil Nadu? So we cannot simply make a assessment that there is a north-south divide when it comes to Congress support base or Congress political trajectory, while Congress is weak in the north but Congress is emerging very strong in the south. I think if you look at the three states, then Telangana, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Telangana and Kerala. These are the three states where Congress is strong. But even in the north, the problem is that Congress is up against a very formidable force, which is BJP. We should not forget that in 2018, Congress did manage to win the three states, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh. So this binary, I don't agree to this binary that we are looking at a trend where Congress would be emerging very strong in the south and weak in the north. Who knows? On 3rd of December, Congress may be winning 3 states or at least 2 states, Chhattisgarh and maybe Madhya Pradesh or Rajasthan.
So that point,
how we are going to discuss this whole narrative of south-north binary.
I got 2 minutes to conclude. So Pradeep, that I'm taking off from that last point that Professor Sanjay Kumar made. In 2018, when Congress won Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, it was like, oh, okay, they are coming back in the Hindi heartland. This time, I don't think any poll has suggested that Congress is winning all 3, right? So the point is, will this mirror in 2024, or in 2024 it's a completely different ball game because Mr. Modi is on the ticket?
Zaka, to just answer it plainly, and I completely second Professor Sanjay Kumar, absolutely it will not mirror, because I remember when we polled Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh in the assembly, and when we polled them in the Lok Sabha in January, we got 90% of the seats in opinion poll going to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And let me tell you that even in Telangana, it's the anti-BRS vote which was for capture. So in GHMC, the BJP was a formidable force. It could cross the 40 mark. Here the BJP surrendered its election after the Karnataka verdict of the Congress party, and that's where the Congress is grabbing maximum anti-BRS vote. But when even in the assembly election, when we asked them for the 2024, it was Narendra Modi getting more votes of 2024 vis-a-vis what the BJP got in 2019. So I will not be surprised even if the Congress gets this vote, gets the verdict. Even that is what we are thinking, that the Congress will be beyond the BRS. In 2024, BJP can up its tally from 4 to say a 5 or a 6 in Telangana, because they are completely contradictory. So it's more of an anti-BRS vote. And even in a Karnataka, it was not per se a north versus south divide. It was BJP vote against the BJP Karnataka government and the Lingayats shifting towards the Congress party. So I will say that I will not draw any parallel to what can happen in 2024, at least based on what we've seen.
तो मनोज जी, एक जमाना हुआ करता था जब हम कहते थे कि इंडियन वोटर जो है जैसे स्टेट के लिए वोट करता है ऐसे ही मतलब पार्लियामेंट के लिए भी वोट करता था। लेकिन क्या आप वो वोटर में वो अंडरस्टैंडिंग आ गया कि देखो लोकसभा इलेक्शन के लिए एक तरफ हम वोट कर सकते हैं और विधानसभा इलेक्शन के लिए दूसरी पार्टी के लिए वोट कर सकते हैं?
ये होता भी आ रहा है और कुछ स्टेट में आपने देखा भी है कि इस तरह की चीज़ें हुई हैं। अब 2019 की बात कर लें और पार्लियामेंट में क्या हुआ तेलंगाना में, और असेंबली में क्या हुआ, 7.1% वोट लेने के बाद भी बीजेपी का क्या प्रदर्शन रहा। हम इसे सेमीफाइनल नहीं मान सकते, ना कांग्रेस के लिए ना बीजेपी के लिए मान सकते हैं। चुनाव जो होता है कहीं न कहीं स्टेट के अपने नेचर पे भी डिपेंड करता है, वहाँ के लोकल लीडरशिप पे करता है। यदि लोग ये कहते हैं कि हिमाचल और कर्नाटका बीजेपी हार गई इसलिए वो दबाव में आ गई है, तो कोई ये क्यों नहीं करता कि उत्तर प्रदेश में इतनी बहुत बड़ी बहुमत के गुजरात को लेकर आई थी तो बीजेपी कहाँ जाएगी जी। तो ये नैरेटिव बनाया जाता है, इसको मैं मानता हूँ। और जहाँ तक रही बात कि तेलंगाना की स्थिति की कहेगी, कर्नाटका का भी उसका है। कर्नाटका मेरा मानना है कि सिर्फ येदियुरप्पा को साइड लाइन करने से जो लिंगायत नाराज हुए वो कांग्रेस की जीत थी। कांग्रेस की सारी रणनीति वहीं पे आकर टिकी हुई थी, वो और कोई नहीं था कि आपके गवर्नमेंट के एंटी-इनकम्बेंसी दिख रहा था, ये दिख रहा था, कुछ नहीं था। दूसरी बात है, जहां तक आप तेलंगाना में आएंगे, तेलंगाना में आप बीजेपी जो लास्ट आवर में जो मजबूत हुई है और वहाँ उसका वोट शेयर आप देखिएगा कि पिछले वोट शेयर से उसका बड़ा हुआ है। तो इसके कारण हो क्या रहा है कि ऐसे भी टीआरएस अपना कमजोर हुई थी और बीजेपी ने उसको ज़्यादा लॉसेज किया है। अब कल जो 10% पोल पूरे देखिएगा कि हर जगह पोल बढ़ रहा है, वहाँ पे पोल घटा है। और सब करें कि ये सरकार हमेशा ये नेचर रहा है कि जब पोल कम होता है तो गवर्नमेंट बचती है, लेकिन ये नेचर किसी को नहीं पता है कि ये क्या होगा। लेकिन लग रहा है कि जो लोग तेलंगाना टीआरएस से नाराज हुए थे तेलंगाना में, वो वोट देने कम आए और कांग्रेस के तरफ लोगों ने वहां किया था। कांग्रेस के नेशनल लीडरशिप की ये कोई तारीफ हुआ नहीं है कि उन्होंने बहुत अच्छा चुनाव लड़ा है। पूरी तरह से लोकल लीडरशिप पर वहां और मिजोरम दोनों जगह छोड़ दिया गया था कि आप चुनाव लड़े। उनका फोकस सिर्फ मध्य प्रदेश था, राजस्थान था और छत्तीसगढ़ था। कांग्रेस वहां पर अपने को सीमित।
मनोज जी, प्रदीप भंडारी, Professor Sanjay Kumar and Dr. Sandeep Shastri, thank you very much for joining us. 3rd of December, Sunday morning, we'll all be here live at 6 a.m. and all of our psephologists, pollsters will also be there. It's going to be a fascinating election. Yes, Manoj ji doesn't agree it's the semi-final before the final, but certainly the narrative will be set depending on how these results go. Quick break. When we come back, a deep dive on the changes, in fact, the charges from the US government against India over an alleged assassination plot against SFJ separatist Gurpantwan Singh Pannu. That and what diplomatic face-off it could lead to. An explainer on that right on the other side.
Hello, Moto.
जुड़े हमारे साथ फिर से और फिर साथ में फिर जश्न मनाएंगे। अगर आप जीतते हैं और अगर नहीं जीते तो फिर आपको कुछ प्रश्नों के जवाब
बिल्कुल जश्न मनाएंगे और छत्तीसगढ़ की जनता भी एक बार फिर दिवाली मनाएगी। राज्य की अन्यायी, अत्याचारी भ्रष्टाचारी कांग्रेस की सरकार से छुटकारा मिलेगा 3 दिसंबर को। और छत्तीसगढ़ की जनता एक बार फिर दिवाली बनाएगी।
जी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद अरुण साहू जी, थैंक यू वेरी मच। नाउ ब्रिंगिंग द कन्वर्सेशन बैक टू this whole mandate conversation. Is it a pro-Modi mandate or is it an anti-incumbent mandate in the states? Where do we stand on that? GVL Narasimha Rao was about to opine on that, but we'll go to GVL first. We take it here.
Stand, which is basically shows a 2-2 kind of draw between BJP and Congress, is definitely a pro-Modi mandate.
See, Congress has become stronger in Telangana. Now it's 63. Congress exit poll of polls, their poll of poll number for the Congress is 63. Way clear, way clear, way clear.
I'm saying that for a couple of reasons. In Madhya Pradesh, they've had 2 decades of income of a BJP government with a 1.5 year interim of Kamal Nath in between. 3-4 months ago, nobody gave BJP a chance in Madhya Pradesh. If the BJP, if there's still such a tight contest in Madhya Pradesh with the BJP ahead in a margin call, I think that's a lot of credit to the BJP party machinery and to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister has been at the center stage of the BJP campaign in both Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, despite it having old satraps who have been who not been with the Chief Ministerial phase. So if the BJP does do well in both these states, you'll have to say that brand Modi retains its potency for the BJP. There is one thing we are forgetting in all of this. If you say that the Congress is going to win in Telangana, then basically the BRS is going to start fighting for its survival at some level. What does that do in the Lok Sabha scenario to that state? It opens that state up.
Yeah.
Those seats then are open season.
Yeah, they're ripe for the BJP and for the Congress and the other parties.
It changes things nationally.
There will be a shift. We've got numbers from Telangana for and these are Chanakya numbers. Let's look at the Chanakya numbers as ये पास आइए तो आपको number दिखा दें. So it's a multi-party contest and a multifaceted contest. Telangana numbers, everybody would be keen to make inroads. Somewhere one gets the sense that the AIM is not gaining ground, it's actually losing ground. So let's quickly look at the numbers. 7 for the BJP, 1 others. AIMIM actually may not win much, and today's Chanakya is very clearly saying at this point that the mandate is going to the Congress party handsomely. 71 seats. That's a runaway win. That's a rout of the BRS, and that's the end of the third front.
That's the end of the third front.
At least BRS was trying to mount. They changed their name from BRS to BRS because of the national ambition.
And that opens that election in the Lok Sabha. I think that this is very consequential at the national level.
GVL, you want to weigh in on this?
More than one reason.
Yes. If there is caste,
what was the main thesis that the BJP unfurled in Rajasthan, that the women are not safe?
Women are not safe.
Yeah.
So law and order. See, but then what you're trying to say is that this entire caste game doesn't stand, because if you're looking at caste, then you can't look at caste only from a male prism.
I'll still go with
women will also don't women identify with caste then?
They do.
You're trying to say if they do identify with caste, then let's not say women voters are voting separately.
Exactly.
No, either they are voting as part of their caste, or they are rising above the caste and looking at the factor on ground.
More and more women want to enter the workforce.
We got a number on CNX number. We've got
more women are wanting to enter the workforce. If they have to,
GVL is there as a quasi-cephalogist. Yes,
exactly.
Quasi-cephalogist. Now no longer into cephalogy, but we will ask GVL on this aspect also, that is this entire caste census thing, is it now a bogey? And should it be looked at only from a male prism? That's another question. But let's look at the CNX number. What is CNX giving as the numbers? Let's go closely. And they are saying CNX 100 is the par number, and CNX is saying that Congress should get 104 seats in Rajasthan. This is the CNX Rajasthan number. And BJP will fall short. 80 to 90 seats for the BJP is what CNX is saying. So these are the latest Rajasthan numbers, and that's why we see the Congress poll number on the edge of your screens bumped up to 80, and the BJP slipping down to 107 from 109. Let's look at the next one. We got one more number coming in on Rajasthan, and this is the Matriz number. The Matriz number says Congress is at 75 and the BJP comfortably way past the 100 number, and it will actually sweep this election in Rajasthan, get up to 130 seats. So if they move past the 100 number, the BJP sweeps the election. That's the call, and that's where some of the analysts and the BJP supporters are saying hum 130 par. We heard the LOP of Rajasthan, Mr. Rathore, also say we will be 130. So let's go across to GVL Narasimha Rao and ask him to weigh in on two aspects. GVL, two aspects. One is this entire caste king. Is it a bogey? If you look at the exit pollsters and the way they have voted, it's against the incumbent. That's what it looks like. Or is for the incumbent. Where is there a caste factor there? Secondly, will you look at it from a male-female prism? Does caste not apply to women at all? And the third part, right now, the outliers are saying this way or the other, but so far.
Earlier this week, there was the discovery of a plot to assassinate a Sikh separatist on US soil, which came to light. On Wednesday, federal prosecutors in the US opened indictments against an Indian national named Nikhil Gupta. He was charged with paying a hitman to kill the Sikh separatist Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, who is both a US and Canadian citizen. The charges against Nikhil Gupta, which were made public by a federal court in Manhattan, is the first known instance of an Indian plot to kill an American on American soil. But Gurpatwant Singh Pannu is no ordinary American. He is the general counsel for the New York-based Sikhs for Justice, which is a radical group which advocates the creation of an independent Sikh state called Khalistan. India calls him a separatist who is advocating for a violent overthrow of the Indian state and the creation of a separate majority Sikh state. He's wanted for over a dozen heinous cases here in India, including charges as grave as murder and waging war against the state. The indictment revealed that the plot to kill Pannu was foiled back in June by an undercover agent of the Drug Enforcement Administration. The charges against Nikhil Gupta is that he coordinated a $15,000 advance payment to an alleged hitman who also happened to be an American law enforcement agent. The money was allegedly routed through the undercover DEA agent who then passed it on to the hitman. The charges also revealed that Gupta was acting at the behest of an Indian intelligence officer who's simply been identified as CC1. The charges reveal purported phone conversations between Gupta and the undercover agent, which suggests that the price for the Pannu hit job was $100,000 USD. In its first comments since the story broke, an Indian Foreign Ministry spokesman, Arindam Bakshi, has said that India takes seriously the information provided by the United States, and earlier this month, India decided to set up a high-level inquiry committee to investigate this matter. He also said that whatever these revelations are, it goes against stated Indian government policy, and that the government of India too is committed to getting to the bottom of this episode.
As regards the case against an individual that has been filed in a US court, allegedly linking him to an Indian official, this is a matter of concern. We have said, and let me reiterate, that this is also contrary to government policy. The nexus between organized crime, trafficking, gun running, and extremists at an international level is a serious issue for law enforcement agencies and organizations to consider, and it is precisely for that reason that a high-level inquiry committee has been constituted, and we will obviously be guided by its results.
The Biden administration learned of the foiled plot in late July, and the matter was raised with senior Indian government officials at various levels. In early August, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan brought his concerns to his Indian counterpart Ajit Doval. Similarly, both the CIA Director William Burns and the Director of National Intelligence Avril Haines brought this up with their respective Indian counterparts both in August and in September. American media reports also suggest that President Biden himself raised this in a meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Group of 20 summit in September, which India had hosted. The reports also seem to suggest that the foiled plot got discovered at around the same time that Modi was being feted at the White House with all the pomp and ceremony of a state visit back in June. Although there is little evidence of widespread pro-separatist sentiment in Punjab, the Indian state is home to a majority of the world's Sikhs. Modi's government has frequently alleged that Sikh extremists, oftentimes supported by Pakistan, have fomented unrest in Punjab and they've carried out terror attacks inside India. These terrorists, the Indian government alleges, have been harbored by Canada and by the United States despite repeated attempts by India to bring them to justice. The United States is not the first Western country to make these allegations. Back in September, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau made a public and dramatic statement in Parliament that his government had credible allegations that Indian agents had killed another Canadian separatist, a Canadian national, on Canadian soil. He was referring to the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Surrey in British Columbia. He's also a well-known Khalistani separatist. In response, both India and Canada expelled their diplomats. India even suspended visas for Canadian nationals, something which it only fully restored just a few days ago. Many describe it as the worst phase in Indo-Canada ties in the last 40 years. The last such period of turbulence was back in 1985 when a known Khalistani separatist based in Canada was accused of blowing up an Air India plane in which more than 300 Canadians and Indians died. India views the harboring of these alleged terrorists as against international norms and against the rule of law. Indian officials ask if the same courtesies would be extended to an Osama bin Laden or an Ayman al-Zawahiri. Having said that, India has also been cautious in reacting to the latest American allegations as opposed to the Canadian one. First,